All right. Hello, and thank you for tuning in for another walkthrough of case study in React. I'm very familiar with Angular. I just did a bunch of case studies using Vue. Alpine.js is a new one coming up, and working on React as well. Just all of the major JavaScript libraries and frameworks. Svelte is another one I may even start to explore myself as a front-end designer slash developer. Anyhow, this is a React quiz. Let's see how well I do on this. So you click start here and you have a timer. You have 15 questions. You have a progress bar. You have the points. Maximum points are as 280. And so the first question is, which is the most popular JavaScript framework? Apparently it's React. I prefer Angular. I mean, I'm slowly starting to like Vue actually. So next, which company invented React? Facebook did, I believe. Google actually develops Angular. Okay, what's the fundamental building block of React? Components. What's the name of the syntax we use to describe the UI and React components? That would be JSX. How does data flow naturally in React apps from parents to children? The other one would be from children to parents, both ways. The developer decides. Actually, it's from parents to children. How to pass data into a child component via props or properties. When to use the derived state. Whenever the state can be computed from another state variable. What triggers a UI re-render in React? That would be updating the state. When do we directly touch the DOM in React? We really don't. So that's almost never. What is the situation we use? In what situation do we use to call back? Use a callback to update a state. Let's see. That would be when the state depends on the previous state. And if we pass a function to useState, then when will that function be called? Let's see. On the initial render. Which hook is used for an API request on the component's initial render? That would be useEffect. And which variables should go into the useEffect dependency array? All the variables needed for cleanup. Oh, nope, I'm wrong. All states and props references in the effect. Now, these answers are actually weighted, so the easier ones have a lower value than the higher ones. So they're more difficult ones. So I missed that one, so that's probably 30 points I won't get. An effect will always turn on the initial render. That's true. And then when will an effect run if it doesn't have a dependency array? Each time the component is rendered? Yep, that's correct. And so now we can finish. See how we did. So I scored 250 out of 280, so that's 90%. So I guess I did pretty good. And then I could restart the quiz. And again, you get a little feedback here, like so. So just a brief breakdown on useReducer, which is actually controlling all of these variable and initial states of also how the UI is responding, as well as how the data is being calculated. So for example, I'm just going to refresh the page here so you can stop the timer. Also, once the timer runs out, it will time out and you'll get 0 points. You have to start over. So anyhow, we go to basically the app.js. So basically, what's really happening here is I'm just running this on my local host. So I'm using a JSON server, which I've installed via npm, and I'm running it on local host 9000. And there's questions here. that I've already can use. There's the questions, here's the options, here's the correct option, and then here's the points that this question, the value of the question. All right, so for example, like I said, these are weighted, so this question is 10%, and the correct option is 2. In an array, it's 0, 1, and 2, JSX, if you remember that question. So that's how the questions are being rendered dynamically or via a faux API per se, because it's running locally. So here initially in the app function here, I'm calling in the useReducer, which is being called in useEffect, and useReducer is being called imported from React. And then these are the initial states and variables that I will need within the useReducer, as well as dispatch, which is basically a listener. And then reducer is the function that is going to actually going to do all of our requests, do all of the requests. And then there's the initial state, which is set here. So this is a object of the initial states. The questions we're pulling in via the API is empty, and then the different states would be status, loading, error, ready, active, and finished. Right now the status is loading. Then there's the index, which is the number of the question, the index within the JSON node here. And then we've got the answers, null, points, high score, and seconds remaining. That has to do with the timer. So essentially here we're rendering a main, which is part of the UI, and then if the status is loading, okay, which is in the reducer function here, this is the function here, all right, which is using a switch case. So it's reducer is passing a state and an action, so it's looking for that. And then the switch case is using the action type. All right, so in case the action type is data received, then it's going to return a status of ready. If it's start, then it's going to return a status of active, so on and so forth. Okay, it's also going to do calculations on the fly, and it's going to return, basically what numbers we need in order to pull the proper questions and do the calculations of the number of the score and whatnot. Okay, and that's via the state, so we're always keeping track of the current state. And then there's finish, and then there's a restart, and tick here is also it's controlling our timer. So when the timer is 0, then we go to finished. And finish, that's being pulled in via these different status statements here. So if status is active, or in this case if status is finished, go to the finish screen. So there's a bunch of components the way that this is set up, and so the finish screen is here when it loads. So here's the finished screen here. Oops, I'm in the wrong page. There it is, and this is where we're getting the emojis here. So if it's within a certain percentage range, we're getting different emojis. This is where we're getting the feedback of the you scored whichever points out of whichever points, plus calculating the percentage. There's a high score calculation, and then there is the restart. So it's using on the click event here on the button. Then there's going to be dispatch and basically saying, hey, I want to restart. So we go back and we say, okay, to the reducer, and we go, okay, we want to restart. Where is that at? Right here. So reducer is going to be essentially, you know, go to the initial state, basically reset everything here to 0, 0, 0, and then the state, the questions, the state is also going to be the questions, so they're going to be reloaded again, and then the status is going to be ready, which we already have set here. Oops, excuse me. That's going to actually, the ready status here, if status is ready, then it's going to go to the start screen. So it's a little complicated, but it's actually quite powerful as versus just a regular useReducer. There's some moving parts, but it's actually very, very powerful for in React to create a small or actually even a large kind of application with lots of moving parts and calculating data and whatnot. So I could just kind of go through this, and it doesn't matter if I get the answers right or wrong. But so far I got 30 points. Prototypes, that's wrong. So if I do get something wrong, it actually highlights. So it gives me the feedback of the correct answer. Another way to do this would be you could go backwards and forwards. You could pause it. Let's see here. You might not know what the correct answer is before you click next. So just depending on what the educational designer has in mind for benchmarking this sort of tests, for example. So update be slow. Oops, I'm getting everything wrong. Use ref, and that's fine because I'm just clicking this randomly and then finish. So scored 90 out of 280, 33, so definitely didn't pass. And then the emoji is going to represent that kind of score. And again, the way that I would possibly redo this or retouch this, practicing this from a tutorial, I would probably put some more kind of animation, especially if you got a very high score for this quiz. So again, thanks for sticking with me as I just kind of briefly walk through using useReducer hook within React framework here. Let's see, components, let's see, props. Here, user run passing props. Oopsie, wrong. Touch nope. Previous state. Initial render. Use effect. User cleanup. True. And each time the component is rendered. So 83%, so that's pretty good. That's like a B. So anyhow, thanks for watching.